What up, people? I am back for another video, and today I'm going to be technically doing two videos right now. I'm doing this one. I'm going to be reviewing Bad Boys 2 finally, so we can get that done. And then I'm going to be doing Bad Boys 3 next week. I was going to do it this week, but figure out I want to do other videos. And after this, right after this, I'm going to be recording. So as this one is done, I'm going to be uploading it. I will be doing another video right after, like literally right after I film this. I'm going to be doing my Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom rewrite. So I figured two birds with one stone, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a video later, because I might be on with friends later. I don't know. Especially, so I figure, and I don't know, I don't want to be like too tired to not do a video, and then I don't want to keep passing the buck to the next day. So I figure I'm just going to do two videos today, just knock them both out. And then tomorrow I will be doing. I will eventually get back to Bad Movie Wednesdays. It's just lately. Tomorrow I'm gonna be doing a movie Steve recommended me. I was gonna do this on Monday, but I couldn't. I'm gonna be doing a movie called Red Scorpion. It's a movie my friend Steve recommended me last week to check out. It's just like a typical '80s kind of action film. Is what I getting the vibe from. So I'll be watching that tomorrow. Plan is to review it. If I don't have to work tomorrow, I might review it early, like kind of maybe this time. I might, depending on how tonight goes, I might watch it tonight and then just review it in the morning. Or if not, I'll watch it in the morning and then try to have a review out by like maybe 1 or 2 in the afternoon or something tomorrow. So it'll still be like earlier in the day tomorrow. So that's the plan. But right now, I am going to be doing Bad Boys 2, which in my opinion is a perfect sequel. I love the first movie. I think this one's probably better on an action. And I do love the scene with Reggie, who, Reggie, if you remember from the Bad Boys Ride or Die, he's the boyfriend. One of the funniest fucking scenes. And the fact that he starts off like this, like they're just Marcus and Mike just punking on him. It is one of the funniest scenes. I love the gag about like the Marcus's pool, or it's not really a pool. It's like a little like a mini pool if you want to call it that. And I love the opening at the Klan meeting, which was just they're looking for drugs because there's a shipment of ecstasy coming in and they're investigating it. We're introduced to Marcus's sister, Sid, who Mike's been secretly dating, played by Gabrielle Union, who's also a DEA agent. The only weak thing about this movie probably is the bad guy. I felt like the bad guy, Hector, was just kind of generic cartel guy. I didn't, like, Fouché, I'm not saying was, like, amazing in the first Bad Boys, but he stood out, or even, like, Mike's ex, in the third one, and even McGrath in the fourth one. I just felt like the bad guys in the other films stood out more. I just felt like Hector was just kind of just generic to me. I don't know. He was a generic cartel guy. Granted, yeah, like later in the movie, he kidnaps Sid. Well, obviously, he's posing like he likes her and wants to launder her money, but obviously, he realizes eventually she's an agent. So he kidnaps her when they raid his home later in the movie, and he flees to Cuba. So there's a portion of the movie in Cuba which I really like. The action scenes are great. I love that Marcus is the one who gets the final kill. I think it's a nice change, interesting change. Mike got the kill in the last one, in the first one. So all around, I think Bad Boys 2 is a really good sequel. I love the scene at the club. You get a really quick glimpse, depending on what version of the film you have. You have a young Megan Fox in it. She's in like one of the club scenes, which I found out the other day from my friend Cowman. But overall, Bad Boys 2 is awesome. I think it's a great sequel. It just, the fact that it's 8 years later, because this was like 2003, So you gotta remember the first was like 95, so I'm surprised they waited that long. But you gotta remember, Will Smith in the 90s, there's so many hits, it probably was the timing. He probably couldn't do them. Like, they maybe originally wanted to do Bad Boys 2, like maybe in like 97 or something, but you gotta remember that year, just those years, Will just had a big hit. Those last few years of the 90s after Bad Boys. Independence Day, 96, 97 with Men in Black. Even a movie I might review one day, Enemy of the State. Will Smith was in 98 and then 99. Great, not a great movie, but Wild Wild West. So he probably just couldn't do it. It was just because of the timing. So, even with how long it took to finally get Bad Boys 2, I think it was a great sequel. And yeah, you have like the whole arc of Marcus potentially thinking about after, because during the shootout at the Klan, Mike shoots Marcus, but to kill the guy behind him. But because he's kind of getting tired of Mike's antics, he's considering transferring out and not working with Mike anymore. So that's almost like the story of the movie throughout. So I love it. I think Marcus and Mike have great chemistry, even though 8 years later it still works. So I think I did see this one in theaters. I saw pretty much the last 3 Bad Boys in theaters. The only one I didn't see in theaters was the first one. So anyways, guys, I don't want to feel like I'm rushing through this one. I kind of want to get to the next video where I'm doing the Fallen Kingdom rewrite. I kind of want to get to that one, so that's why if it seems like I'm going through this one a little quick, that's kind of why. But anyways, guys, let's go. Movie opens up. This really funny sequence at the Klan meeting because they're trying to see. It turns out they're not the ones distributing the drugs in this whole operation. Looking for ecstasy, who's shipping ecstasy into the state, into Miami, and then things go wrong. We get a big shootout. SWAT comes in. Ruiz and Vargas are recast, which kind of sucks. I actually like the guys who played Ruiz and Vargas in the first movie, but I don't know if it's just because how long it took to make this one. Maybe that's partially why. But Marcus is held captive by one of the Klansmen, and Mike basically has to shoot through Marcus to kill the guy, which they do call back in Bad Boys 4. But Mike, Marcus kind of getting tired of Marcus's antics, tells him that he's potentially going to be transferring out and not working with Mike anymore. Marcus now has a more fancier house. We have a kind of a fun scene, kind of like all the Bad Boys movies where they're with their family. We're introduced to Marcus's sister, who we find out is actually secretly dating Mike, who they haven't, she hasn't told him, but we also find out, because there's a scene later, before there's like a funny gag with them in the pool, their pool kind of gets destroyed, so they end up having to get a new pool, because you even have the kids gag on like, Dad, you gotta get a better pool, I love those little moments in the Bad Boys movies. Don't get me wrong, I love the action, but I've always loved those little moments, like, where it's just Marcus and Mike just being friends, ragging on each other, or like where they're with their family and you get like a funny gag with the family. I've always loved that stuff, or I love these part of these movies. Thought Bad Boys 3 has a pretty good couple. So then we find out that Sid is actually a DEA agent who's posing as a money launderer to work with Hector, who we find out is actually the one distributing the drugs. We have a scene. Oh, before this big shootout, there's a scene where Marcus and Mike go to a club, which pretty fun little scene. And then this is where we get a big chase scene, big shootout, because the Haitians show up, because Marcus and Mike have been tracking them down. They think they're the ones distributing it. They find out they're not, but we get a pretty big chase scene where one of the Haitians is hanging on the side of the car that Sid's driving. So I really think they definitely amplified the action, and it's partially because obviously they waited a little bit, you know. So by 2003, definitely you could have pretty good action scenes. So I understood maybe partially, maybe that's what they wanted to do. Maybe they wanted to do more big. I mean, it was Michael Bay, so maybe he felt like, if we waited a little bit, wait till like the technology gets a bit better. And yeah, like I love the action in these later movies. I will say 2, 3, and 4. 4 is probably, if I'm going just purely real quick before I get back to Bad Boys 2, I think Ride or Die probably has the best action. If we're going purely just action of the franchise, I think 4 has the best. But I do love these last few where they are definitely putting a pretty good action. It got some really good chase scenes, sequences. Um, obviously the action scenes in Cuba when we get to later on in the film. But this is where Mike, going back to the movie, Marcus finds out that Mike's dating Sid. Obviously, he's kind of judging because he knows Mike's like a player. For what up until that point, Mike's like a bachelor. Always been kind of a player. Talks to different women, so he didn't want that for his sister, obviously. So that's their little story. And then this is where we get, in my opinion, probably one of the funniest scenes in Bad Boys in the entire franchise, where Reggie's introduced. It is fucking hilarious, especially considering what happens with Reggie by the fourth movie. So the fact that this is where he starts, he's just the guy that Mike and Marcus were punking on, scaring to make sure they have Marcus's daughter home by 10, not 10:01. Like, it was fucking funny. Like, it was. I remember watching this in the theater, and just, even though I was like 7, so I was still a little young, it was still pretty funny. And I think that's the fact that that's where Reggie starts. This is how he's introduced to the franchise. So, so Sid, they do make it seem like Sid is flirting. I mean, obviously she's de-age and she's going undercover, so she's going a little, pushing it further, make it seem like she has a thing for Hector, which, going to my problems with Hector, I just feel like he's a non-factor in this movie. One, he's really introduced kind of a little bit, not uber late, but he doesn't feel like he has a presence in the film compared to like Fouché, who is all throughout that first Bad Boys. He's the one who ends up killing Max, Marcus's Mike's ex from the first one. He's introduced in the beginning of the movie. I felt like Hector is just, throughout, he just played generic cartel guy to me. Who wants to sell drugs. I don't know. I didn't feel like his villain. Be honest with you. Because even for a while when I watched Bad Boys, nothing against 2 and 3, but I kind of just would sometimes just watch only the first one. Just not get around to the sequels. Even then, I still remember the villain from the third one because it's Mike's ex, so you at least have that. So it's memorable. I felt like the villain in 2 just was. I forgot. I'll be honest. I forgot who the villain was, and now I'm like rewatching. Like, I kind of remember why now. He just didn't really have a presence, so that's my only real criticism I have for the film. Everything else I love. I just think that's like the only aspect I don't really. I think they could have did better. That's why partially I'm also going through it quick. I just don't think there's much to talk about with the villain. I do Sid ultimately I love the scenes with Captain Howard, who obviously reprimands them for what happened earlier, but they do get clearance basically to work with the DA that they have found enough proof to raid Hector. They end up doing it, but Hector manages to escape, kidnap Sid. You kind of have like a scene similar to the first one where they kind of like chase the car, and then like you just see Mike and Marcus just kind of looking at like a really good like pan shot of them. So, pretty much, then yeah, like pretty much it's like the final raid. Really, they go to Cuba. They don't have any clearance, so some of the Cuban military is basically kind of shooting at Mike and Marcus because they don't have clearance there. It's kind of how it works. But they manage to save Sid. They kill Matt. Marcus gets to Hector and kills him by blowing him up. Um, I do like it's Marcus who gets the shot. Um, Basically lets Mike and Mark gives Mike his blessing to date his sister. Decides to stay in Miami and be Mike's partner. Get a really funny scene of the pool breaking again in the end at the barbecue, the end of the film. So yeah, sorry guys if it felt like I was going through it quick. It's just Bad Boys 2 is kind of it's like the first one. It's kind of simple. It's not a lot to go through. So, but Bad Boys 2, I would give like a 9. I think I gave the first one like a 9.5. I'd give this one a 9. I think this one is really good. I think the dynamic between Mike and Marcus is perfect. I love the whole aspect of, testing their friendship because Mike, Mark is potentially kind of stepping down and wanting to not work with Mike anymore. So you have that aspect going for it. I like the sister. I kind of wish the sister came back in later movies. I don't know if just Gabrielle Union just never agreed to come back. I don't know what it was, but I would have been okay if she came back at least in the third one. But it's whatever if she never came back. I don't know. I thought she was a decent enough character, in the franchise. I thought her and Mike did have chemistry for the scenes they did have together, showing them as a couple. So soundtrack was great. I love the opening scene at the clan meeting. And obviously one of the funniest, probably the funniest scene in the entire franchise, the fucking scene with Reggie. I think that's when I think Bad Boys like Mike and Marcus at their best. That scene right there. Like when I think this entire movie, it's this scene. That's probably gonna be the thumbnail. Is Mike and Marcus at the door and Reggie just standing there. It's probably gonna be the thumbnail. So, but anyway, great fucking film. So, anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here. But don't worry, I'm not gonna be done yet. I'm gonna be right after gonna be doing my Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom rewrite, which I'm gonna say right now is probably gonna be much more elaborate. Like it's gonna be a bit long. It's definitely gonna be longer than the first one I did last week. So, anyways, wrap this up. All right, y'all. See y'all in a second. I'm gonna upload the video really quick, and then I'm gonna come back. But all right, I'll talk to y'all in a second. Peace.